I never thought a simple ultrasound appointment would turn into an assault. But when the HOA vice president stormed into my home and tried to drag my pregnant wife off the table, something inside me snapped. I caught every second on video, and that recording didn't just protect my family, it ended her reign over the entire neighborhood. My name's Daniel Carter, structural engineer, born and raised right here in Willow Creek Estates. Yeah, the same community my late father helped design decades ago. My wife Emily and I thought we were living the dream when we moved into the house he built. Quiet streets, trimmed lawns, good neighbors, or so we thought. Then came Patricia Hensley, the HOA vice president, the self-crowned queen of compliance. She wore her authority like armor and swung it like a sword. People whispered her name like a curse, and eventually she came for us. The first time I met Patricia, she barged into our home uninvited, clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. Emily was still hooked up to her monitor, trying to relax. Patricia shoved a violation notice against my chest and said, "Unauthorized construction. This will not stand." Her tone dripped arrogance. I could smell the cheap perfume mixed with power. I didn't flinch. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, "The room you're standing in, I designed it. Every bolt, every beam approved by city code." She blinked just once, but I saw that flicker of doubt behind her smug little smirk. The fight had begun. See, this wasn't just a hobby project. This room was a medical space built so Emily could safely undergo daily monitoring for her pregnancy. High risk, the doctor said. That equipment wasn't decoration, it was life support. My wife's safety depended on it. But to Patricia, it was an unauthorized addition, a blemish on her perfect HOA kingdom. I should have known she wouldn't stop at one notice. Within a week, the whole neighborhood was buzzing with new violations. Kids fined for leaving bikes by the fence. Elderly couples ordered to repaint mailboxes for being too glossy. Even the Johnsons, who planted wildflowers for their late daughter, were told to rip them out because they attracted pests. It was insanity. Everyone whispered, but nobody fought back. Patricia ruled through fear, and silence was her weapon. But fear doesn't sit well with me, especially not when my wife's health was on the line. That night I spread every notice I could gather across my desk. The same name signed at the bottom of every one, Patricia Hensley. I held my father's old brass compass in my hand, the one he used when drafting the first plans for Willow Creek. "This ends here," I whispered. I started documenting everything. Dates, names, quotes, patterns. I'm an engineer. Patterns are what I do best. The more I saw, the more it looked like she wasn't enforcing order. She was enforcing control. The next HOA meeting felt like a circus. Patricia sat at the head of the long table, tapping her pen like a judge about to hand out sentences. She called my name with a grin. "The Carter's illegal construction remains unresolved," she said, letting illegal hang in the air like poison. I sat in the back, arms crossed, saying nothing. But then I noticed something. Marcus Lee, a board member, sitting 2 seats down, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. He wasn't nodding along like the others. He looked trapped. His silence told me everything. Not everyone on that board agreed with her. 2 days later, Patricia showed up at my door again. This time she had a thick envelope. "Notice of lien proceedings," she said with that cruel smile. "Failure to comply means forfeiture of property rights." Emily gasped behind me. Her hand flew to her belly. Patricia's smile widened. "You people think rules don't apply to you, but I'll drag this entire neighborhood through the mud if I have to." Her words sliced through the air. I snatched the envelope from her hand and said quietly, "You've already gone too far." For the first time her smile faltered, but only for a second. "We'll see you in court," she said, spinning on her heels. After she left, Emily slid down the wall, trembling. "They're going to take everything," she whispered. I knelt beside her, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "No," I said, "not if I can help it." That night I couldn't sleep. I went to my office, turned on the lights, and dug into the city's archives. Hours later, there it was. City permit number 47218. Signed, stamped, sealed. Full authorization for the room Patricia claimed was illegal. I printed it, held the warm paper in my hands, and felt the tide shift. She hadn't just overstepped, she'd broken the law. When I showed Emily, she cried. "So this means we're safe?" she asked. "It means I said she's standing on hollow ground." But Patricia didn't care about proof. She cared about control. And she proved it a few days later when she came back pounding on our door like she owned the place. I barely had time to answer before she pushed past me, heels clicking on the tile. "This," she barked, pointing at Emily's monitor, "is non-residential use. It violates Section 4 of—" "Stop!" Emily whispered weakly, trying to sit up. But Patricia didn't stop. She grabbed Emily's arm. "You need to get off this table right now." Something inside me snapped. I shoved Patricia back hard and raised my phone. The camera was rolling before she could blink. "Don't you touch her," I said. My voice shook with fury. Patricia's face twisted. "This will be noted as obstruction," she spat. "No," I said. "This will be noted as assault." The red light on my screen blinked every cruel second captured. Her handprint on Emily's arm, her illegal entry, her venomous words. When she realized it, her expression cracked. She hissed, "You'll regret this," and stormed out. But she was wrong. For once, regret wasn't mine to carry. That night I replayed the footage over and over. Emily was safe but shaken. The room echoed with the sound of her sobs and the steady beep of her monitor. I sat beside her, the compass warm in my pocket, and whispered, "You're safe now. I promise." But inside I was boiling. The next evening a knock came at the door, soft, hesitant. Marcus Lee stood outside, eyes darting nervously. "Can I come in?" he asked. He looked terrified. I let him in. He stood there for a moment staring at the floor before finally saying, "What she's doing isn't how things are supposed to work. She bypasses votes, rewrites meeting minutes, threatens anyone who speaks up." He handed me a folder full of emails, altered records, fake approvals, all in her handwriting. "I can't be part of it anymore," he said. "I saw what she did to your wife. I can't sleep." I took the folder, realizing what I was holding, the blueprint of Patricia's corruption. "You know what this means?" I asked. He nodded. "If she finds out, she'll bury me. But maybe it's time someone dug us all out." That night I spread the documents across my desk beside the city permit and my phone with the video. 3 pieces of proof. 3 blows strong enough to crack her empire. I drew lines between them the way I'd designed structural support on a blueprint, each fact reinforcing the next. Emily walked in quietly, resting her hand on my shoulder. "You look like you're building something," she said softly. "I am," I replied, "a case she can't tear down." The next day I called neighbors, the same ones who'd been too afraid to speak. I showed them the video, the permit, the evidence Marcus gave me. Their faces changed from fear to anger. "She said you built illegally," one father muttered. I slid the permit toward him. "She lied." One by one people stood up. "I'll testify," someone said. "For my daughter's flowers," another whispered. The silence Patricia had built for years started to crumble. By sunset I had signatures from 6 families. Patricia's weapon was fear. Mine was truth. And truth was spreading. When the court date came, the courthouse was packed. I sat in the lobby, binder on my lap, compass in my hand. Emily sat beside me, pale but strong. Across the hall I saw Patricia, still smug, still convinced she'd win. But she didn't know I'd brought the whole neighborhood with me. The bailiff called our case. Carter versus Hensley. In the courtroom, Patricia sat with her lawyer, pretending confidence. I stood, binder in hand, and said, "Your Honor, my name is Daniel Carter. I'm not here to avoid rules, I'm here to show how they've been abused." I started with the city permit, laying it flat on the evidence table. This room was reviewed and approved by the City of Houston before construction began. The HOA has no authority to override municipal law. Murmurs rippled through the benches. Then I played the video. Patricia's voice echoed through the courtroom. "You need to get off this table right now." The footage showed her hand gripping Emily's arm, the monitor beeping, Emily crying out. Gasps filled the room. The judge's brow furrowed. Patricia's smirk cracked. Next came the testimonies, neighbors describing years of harassment, unfair fines, threats. And finally Marcus stood up. His voice trembled at first but grew steadier. "She rewrote minutes, falsified votes, threatened us all," he said. I stayed silent too long. He handed over copies of the documents I'd brought. The judge's expression hardened. Patricia's face drained of color. The courtroom fell silent. The judge leaned forward. This court finds that the HOA's claims are void. The addition is legal. The fines are unenforceable. And the conduct of Vice President Hensley will be referred for investigation. The gavel struck. Final. Irrevocable. Patricia froze. The same woman who'd strutted through our streets barking orders and threats sat silent, deflated. The empire she'd built on fear collapsed under the weight of truth. I didn't cheer. I didn't need to. The sound of neighbors clapping behind me said it all. For years they'd lived in silence. Now their voices filled the room. I turned to Emily, who was crying quietly beside me. Her hand found mine warm and steady. I looked at Patricia one last time, not with hate but with clarity. She wasn't powerful anymore. She was just another person exposed by her own arrogance. As I walked out of the courthouse into the blinding Texas sun, I reached into my pocket and felt the compass. My father's compass, the one that always pointed true. For the first time in months, I knew I was finally standing on solid ground again. And if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that bullies thrive in silence, but the moment you start recording speaking standing, their power disappears.